Hello students, welcome to this channel Educator Rajeev and hope you all are happy and healthy there. This video is brought to you by VK Rajeev in the series of chapter Life Processes, Class 10 Biology. Here the cover page is very clear to show you the new topic of the day. With the support and your recommendations, I get motivated to keep posting such videos one after another. Let's begin without wasting time. Here, my dear students, if you know what is respiration, then you must be knowing what is the meaning of this slide. Well, in this slide, you must be seeing two test tubes. One test tube A, which contains a syringe inserted in the rubber tube, which is dipped in the lime water in a test tube A. In the test tube B, there is lime water in which rubber tube is dipped, but it is being blown by mouth. Here, similarly, the steps are mentioned. Take some freshly prepared lime water in a test tube, blow air through this lime water. Note how long it takes for the lime water to turn milky. Use a syringe or pitchkari to pass air through some fresh lime water taken in another test tube. Note how long it takes for this lime water to turn milky. Now the question arises, why are we bothering ourselves to check time taken for turning lime water milky? You must recall your concept, what turns lime water milky. Of course, you must be knowing it's carbon dioxide. Now you have to compare in the two cases, in which case the carbon dioxide is more being expelled out into the lime water from the syringe or from the mouth. So once you are able to answer this question, you can answer what turns lime water milky faster in which case. And after that it will be easy for you to understand respiration, my dear students. You have to find out where is the carbon dioxide coming from then, more from the syringe or more from the mouth. Well, let's begin the chapter now. Respiration is the process that involves burning of food and production of energy in the body. Now word is important over here. Burning of food. Burning of food is different from burning of wood. Burning of wood is called combustion, but burning of food is called respiration. Combustion takes place outside the body, respiration takes place inside the living cell. Combustion takes place in the room temperature, anywhere in the nature. Respiration takes place in the body temperature, inside a living cell. Well, combustion takes place in one step, just burning and turning the reactant into ash and residue, whereas respiration is a complex biochemical process which takes place as a result of series of chemical reactions. It's a complex process. Well, in the respiration process, glucose in our body is oxidized into carbon dioxide and water, liberating energy in the form of ATP. What is ATP? ATP is adenosine triphosphate, and one separate slide has been dedicated to ATP, and we will look into that. My dear students, it may take place in the presence or absence of oxygen or in lack of oxygen. Here, based on these conditions only, the further slide determines how many types of respiration can be occurring in our body or in the living organisms. This respiration occurs in two phases. First is glycolysis, in which glucose is broken down into pyruvate. You must know that glucose is a 6-carbon molecule. It contains C6H12O6, where it contains 6 carbon, and pyruvate is a 3-carbon molecule. Okay, so after the glucose is broken into pyruvate in the cytoplasm of a cell, then it moves to the mitochondria. In the mitochondria, further pyruvate is converted into carbon dioxide, liberating high amount of energy, and that is called Krebs cycle. So glycolysis takes place in cytoplasm, Krebs cycle takes place in mitochondria, where high amount of energy is produced. And that's why, if you recall your old concept, where mitochondria is called powerhouse of the cell. So here, this is the reason why mitochondria is called powerhouse of the cell. My dear students, further, on the basis of in what condition respiration is taking place, we can classify them into two kinds. One is aerobic respiration and another is anaerobic respiration. Well, anaerobic respiration, which can take place either in the total absence of oxygen or in lack of oxygen. Let's see in the next slide one by one. Before going ahead, you have to clear your concept related to one of the anaerobic respiration, that is fermentation. Take some fruit juice or sugar solution and add some yeast to this. Take this mixture in a test tube fitted with a one-holed cork. Fit the cork with the bent glass tube. Dip the free end of the glass tube into a test tube containing freshly prepared lime water. Now, what change is observed in the lime water and how long does it take for this change to occur? This is the simple set of experiment which can be done in the school lab, and you can easily find out what is the observation to the lime water in case of yeast put up in the solution. And once you find out answer to this question, you are able to understand 50% of the concept of respiration, my dear students, believe me. So looking up to the first, second and third slides, we decide that respiration can be of two kinds. One is aerobic respiration, another is anaerobic respiration. Where aerobic respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen, anaerobic respiration takes place in absence of oxygen. Where aerobic respiration produces more energy, anaerobic respiration can produce less energy. End products in the case of aerobic respiration can be carbon dioxide, water and energy, whereas in case of anaerobic respiration it depends. In muscle cells, if it takes place, it produces lactic acid and energy, whereas in yeast cells it takes place and produces ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. Common thing is that in all three cases energy is produced, but in which case it is produced more? Obviously in aerobic respiration, right? Okay, with this aerobic respiration is very common in many organisms, but anaerobic is rare in some bacteria, in some fungus and in the muscle cells also, right? In the muscle cells, when you come back from the rigorous exercise or heavy hard work, then you must be feeling muscle cramp. After a hot water bath you feel relaxed. Actually that time, due to lack of oxygen, the accumulation of lactic acid takes place in your body and that blocks your blood circulation, due to which you start complaining of cramp. And once you are treated with hot water bath or massage, those melt down and the blood circulation resumes, and that gives you relief. That's how in the muscle cells anaerobically your body compensates the loss of energy, right? In the summary of aerobic respiration, you can see that glucose is breaking down into pyruvate in the presence of oxygen in cytoplasm. Later on, a pyruvate is converted to carbon dioxide and water and energy, that too in the presence of oxygen, but in mitochondria, right? And so this slide is giving you a clear-cut observation regarding types of respiration, my dear students. Breakdown of glucose through various pathway. This is what happens exactly during respiration. So in the first step, you can see that is common in all the cases, glucose turning into pyruvate. Glucose being the 6 carbon molecule, in the cytoplasm it breaks into 2 molecules of 3 carbon molecule, that is pyruvate, okay, and that is also giving some amount of energy here. Now this becomes endothermic reaction after the step of glycolysis. Pyruvate now has to go. Now after that, this pyruvate has to go to the different parts of the cells. In case of yeast, in the mitochondria, it breaks down into ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy, that is 2. Ethanol is a 2 carbon molecule, and it can also go to the muscle cells where it breaks down into lactic acid, which is a 3 carbon molecule, and energy. But in the case of carbon dioxide, in the case of our body cells, in the mitochondria, it goes carbon dioxide, water and energy. So 3 conditions can be seen over here. One is absence of oxygen, that is in yeast. One is lack of oxygen in our muscle cells, and last is the presence of oxygen, that is in mitochondria. My dear students, in the last case it is totally aerobic respiration, but in upper 2 case it is anaerobic. I think this concept is clear for you. Here, one slide is dedicated to ATP. ATP is actually adenosine triphosphate, and just like money is counted in dollar, rupee, ruble, real, dinar, energy is counted in ATP. ATP is the energy currency for most cellular processes. It's released during the process of respiration, is used to make an ATP molecule from ADP and inorganic phosphate. Inorganic phosphate means 1P plus ADP, that's 2P, diphosphate. So 2 plus 1P is equal to 3P. So ADP, that means adenosine diphosphate, di means 2 plus 1 more inorganic phosphate is added to make ADP along with P, that is called ATP. During this time, energy is utilized, so this reaction is called endothermic reaction. But respiration produces energy, so it's called exothermic reaction. Is that clear, children? So here circled P is denoted as phosphate. Endothermic process in the cell then uses this ATP to drive the further reactions. When the terminal phosphate linkage in ATP is broken using water, the energy equivalent to 30.5 kilojoule per mole is released. Now, in the NCERT, there is a sentence written, a fixed amount of energy is produced, right? So, that fixed amount is here written 30.5 kilojoule per mole. Well, connection with NCERT is important for you to keep your concept very clear. Think of how a battery can produce energy, provide energy for many different kinds of uses. It can be used to obtain mechanical energy, light energy, electrical energy, and so on. Similarly, ATP can also be used in the cells for the contractions of muscles, protein synthesis, conduction of nerves and pulse, and many other activities. My dear students, if you recall your old concept of nutrition, previous concept of nutrition, in the nutrition you take food, that is called ingestion, you break down the food, that is called digestion, you then absorb the nutrients through villi, that is called absorption. But after that, where is this absorbed food going? This absorbed food goes to the cell. In the cell, it is being used for production of energy, and the process is called assimilation. So that assimilation is leading to provide energy and production of energy that takes place in the cell cytoplasm during the process of respiration. That's how nutrition and respiration are connected with each other. After the respiration, there is a new topic which will come to you, is transportation, which is also linked one after another. That's why the series is going in a proper sequence. So first nutrition, and that leads to the respiration. That's how here ATP is being very relevant in all these cases, my dear students. Hope this is very clear. You are clear with ATP now. All right, let's move. My dear students, if we look around, then different living organisms are adapted in a different way. Right from the smallest living organism, let's see unicellular amoeba or paramecium, their body is made up of one cell, so the particles or organelles are quite close to each other. So one simple process is enough for transmission of oxygen throughout their body, and that is diffusion. Well, oxygen is needed in sufficient amount for aerobic respiration in all these cases. Here, exchange of gases in plants can be happening through stomata, lenticels, or pneumatophores. Let me make it very clear. Plants do respiration throughout the day and night. Previous concept misconceptions should be shedded now. In that, you must be knowing that respiration does not take place in the daytime. No, respiration takes place 24 hours. Right, but during the daytime, when carbon dioxide is expelled out, that carbon dioxide is actually used for photosynthesis, so we don't feel the problem of photosynthesis carbon dioxide in the daytime. But in the night time, there is no photosynthesis occurring, so carbon dioxide is expelled out in high quantity, and that concentration is higher in the night time. That's why we are suggested not to sleep under the tree during the night time. Well, my dear students, this respiration in the plants takes place from the three regions. One is in the leaf, that is leaf respiration through stomata. One is stem, that is lenticels in the stem. And some plants which are growing in the marshy area, those are called mangroves. Their land is totally submerged with water all year, so the air in the soil is replaced by water. So where do they get oxygen from? They get oxygen from above the surface of water. Some roots are adapted to rise above the surface of water, and those are aerial roots. We call them pneumatophores. Okay, so respiration takes place in the plants both day and night. Here, my dear students, in the plants where stomata is used for exchange of gases, there is one important adaptation in the cells, that the large intercellular spaces make sure that the cell is remaining in contact with air, so that diffusion can take place. Exchange of gases takes place through the diffusion in smaller animals, but it is not enough alone enough to continue this process in the body which is bigger in size, where one cell is far from another and the target is far from the source. In that case, diffusion cannot be sufficient to perform this respiration role. One fact will astonish you, that if diffusion was the way for transmission of oxygen from one part of our body to other, then oxygen from the tip of our toe would take 3 years to reach our head if diffusion was the process. So in that case, you must be knowing how diffusion could be helpless for us. So due to that, there is one pigment in our body that is called hemoglobin. We will deal with it in the later slides. Okay, children. Here, if you have heard that diffusion takes place in the smaller living organism, then what direction it is taking place, that depends upon the environmental conditions. If the condition is dry, then the direction will be different. If the condition is humid, then the direction will be different. So in the case of environmental conditions during photosynthesis as well as respiration in the plants, this direction of diffusion depends on the environmental conditions. Here you can understand that if the weather is dry, then the rate of transpiration is high, right? And when it is wet, then the rate of transpiration is less. Rate of photosynthesis is also occurring as per the photo period in the plants. Okay, so more the duration of sunlight, more rate of photosynthesis. Less the duration, less the photosynthesis. So during this time, exchange of gases also vary according to the variation in environmental conditions, no matter it is respiration or it is photosynthesis, because both are taking place through stomata only. So opening and closing of stomata depends upon the environmental conditions. Alright, let's move ahead. If we talk about the other living organisms like earthworm, in the earthworm it takes place through skin surface, in the frogs it takes place through skin surface, in the tadpole it takes place through gills, in the fishes it takes place through gills. These animals take oxygen which is dissolved in water, but the concentration of oxygen in the water is comparatively lesser than that in the air. So in that case, what happens, the rate of breathing in the aquatic animals becomes faster to grab more oxygen in the required time period. That's why it's written here, rate of breathing in aquatic animals is faster than in the terrestrial ones. Moving ahead, you can also understand that the aquatic animals take oxygen dissolved in water, while terrestrial ones take it from the atmosphere. You must be knowing that air present in the atmosphere is it's containing 20% or 21% of oxygen. So here we are in close contact with the air, and our body surface has got larger area also, so we are grabbing more oxygen, so we are slow in the rate of breathing in comparison to that of the aquatic animals. I think this slide has given you a brief instinct or insight about the respiration in various living things. Various living things are adapted in the different ways, and that's how they have got different organs of breathing, organs for respiration. And well, we are talking about breathing here in the topic of respiration. Let me make it very clear. Respiration is a very complex process of 3 steps. One is inhalation, second is breaking down of food and production of energy, and third one is the exhalation. So inhalation and exhalation are called breathing. In one word, it's called breathing. Okay, and next one is the breaking down of food and production of energy. So let's find out what are the organs associated with respiration in our body, respiration in human beings. Dear students, you can see in this figure, it's very clearly visible that we humans use nostrils or nasal passage to take air in. Alright, so here the first organ is nasal passage, then it comes, then it has the pharynx, larynx, trachea. The trachea has got rings of cartilage that then leads to the bronchi. Bronchi branches into bronchioles. Bronchioles open into alveolar sac. Well, these are the different organs associated with respiratory system in humans, where alveoli is a plural word whose singular word is called alveolus. You can check out the small sac like structure in which the bronchus opens, right? Let's move ahead. Here you have to understand mechanism of breathing. Mechanism of breathing actually begins when there is intake of air through your nostrils. Nostrils are the small air small holes which also have got the hair like growth on the in the nose. So that nostril leads to the nasal passage, the air comes to the nasal cavity, and then it comes to the pharynx. Pharynx leads to the larynx, which are found in the digestive also and the respiratory system also. My dear students, then this leads to the trachea. Trachea is a windpipe which is covered with the tracheal ring, cartilaginous ring is there. This trachea leads air to bronchi. Now bronchi is a plural word. Bronchi branches are bronchus is a singular word, bronchi is a plural word. So many multi-branch, small branches, bronchi breaks into bronchioles. Tiny bronchioles open into numerous of sac-like structure. You can see in the nearby figure where it opens into a very small sac-like structure, that is called alveoli. You must be astonished to know more than 300 million alveoli can be accommodated here. And in the alveoli, there is one important factor. Each alveoli is actually having very fine blood vessels which are called capillaries. These capillaries are richly supplied with blood, that's why it looks very red in color. Here is the place where oxygen in the air diffuses into the blood. Oxygen from the air diffuses into the blood, and it patches up with a red pigment in the blood. That iron pigment is called hemoglobin, and that results in the formation of oxyhemoglobin. My dear students, this picture can be paused and seen again and again, right? Here is the activity number many pictures are illustrated here that shows you how breathing takes place inside our body. My dear children, in the class 7 concept, you should recall the activity taking one plastic jar and replacing its bottom with one rubber sheet. Now you have to insert one Y-shaped tube inverted and seal the lid of that jar with a closed tight some lid, and only the pipes opening should be there. And now you have to insert two balloons to the two arms of this Y-shaped tube, and after that close the container with rubber sheet. Now you have to check out how does it work. You pull the rubber sheet down and you can see that the balloon gets inflated, whereas once you release it, the balloon gets deflated. So that's how you can here watch in the figure above inhalation and exhalation, figure A and figure B. Upside in the inhalation you can see that diaphragm is little bit less curved in comparison to the figure B. Okay, here actually what happens, my dear children, when you try to inhale, during that time what happens, there is a contraction in the diaphragm. Contraction in the diaphragm leads to flattening of the diaphragm, creating more chest cavity space, which leads to intake of air. It creates inward pressure, and that's how air enters your body. Actually the pressure leads air to enter your body, but after that, once this is done, then your diaphragm relaxes. Once it relaxes, then its curvedness increases. Its curvedness increases, then space in the chest cavity reduces, and that creates outward pressure to the body, and this outward pressure releases the air, and that allows the air to get out of the body. So during this inhalation and exhalation, you must be knowing that there is a residual volume of oxygen present in our body so that we do not fall short of oxygen anytime or air anytime. Find out what is the residual volume of air present in our body every time. Here this process is very well known, my dear students, by the jar method. There are two figures given to illustrate your mechanism of breathing, inhalation and exhalation. In one via the body method, breathing in and breathing out. You can also yourself illustrate once you stand or sit in the relaxed mode and pull up your ribs up. When you pull the ribs up, you will touch your rib cage and you will see that there is something which is rising up in your body. So that chest cavity, when the rib cage rises up, it creates a big space for the vacancy of air to get in your body. And when you exhale, your rib cage goes down and there is no space for the air. So that's how air is inhaled or exhaled. Recall the concept and of class 7. You will see what is the percentage of oxygen and carbon dioxide during inhalation and exhalation respectively. Well, once the air comes to the lungs, there are 4 parts in the lungs. One is the bronchi, other is bronchiole, other is alveoli, and one the capillaries and other things. So here when the air rich in oxygen comes to the alveoli, it goes to the capillary, and in the capillary this oxygen via process of diffusion mixes up with blood. In the blood there is a red pigment which is called hemoglobin. Here this hemoglobin diffuses with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin, and then hemoglobin is in the RBC actually. So this oxygen is now carried with hemoglobin as oxyhemoglobin to the different cells. During this process only, what happens, carbon dioxide which is produced as a result of various metabolism diffuses back to the blood, and that blood comes back to the alveoli where it goes out as a carboxyhemoglobin, right? So my dear students, one is oxyhemoglobin and another is the carboxyhemoglobin. So carboxyhemoglobin comes back to the alveolus and oxyhemoglobin goes away from the alveolus towards the cells. Here in the second step, you can see exhalation leads to the carbon dioxide released in the blood, and then it is dissolved in the blood later on. Now here you have to understand one thing, the carbon dioxide can dissolve faster than oxygen in the blood. Okay, so the solubility of carbon dioxide is higher. So in this case, carbon dioxide released in the blood and then it goes to the dissolved in the blood and further again follow the same backward path. Blood vessels, from the blood vessels it is released in alveolar sac, later on it is sent out through the nostrils. So these two flowcharts give you a clear instinct of the route of exchange of gases between alveolus, blood and tissues. This slide is quite important for you to understand what is the mechanism of breathing in our body, my dear students. After this only, during this process what happens, huge amount of energy is utilized also and huge amount of energy is given out also, but further that this energy is utilized for our various purposes. Different living organisms have been adapted in the different ways to the for the purpose of breathing. And this breathing here you have to understand that we should always breathe through nose, because nose contains nostrils. One more thing I want to tell you, that the various inner respiratory organs, they all are lined with finger like projection, hair like projections present inside, that is called villi. This villi is to fight against germs. Okay, but some careless people, when they smoke, when they take the tobacco products, then these tobacco products burn out that villi which is not able to fight from the germs. Okay, later on it causes lungs disorder, and that is very injurious for them. Dear students, please, this study of this life process is not only for getting marks, it is also to generate awareness among the masses, right? So in this way we come to the end of this topic. Thank you for watching. That's how you have got your got to read, review, recommend, see, share and subscribe YouTube channel of mine. Okay, thanks and have a nice day.